My girlfriend wanted a pause to reconnect with her ex 10 weeks before we were supposed to marry. I called everything off and vanished entirely. So, I just experienced what has to be the most explosive breakup in Arizona history. And honestly, I'm still wrapping my head around how somebody can be choosing cake flavors with you one moment and asking to see their ex the next. I'm Derek, 29, pharmaceutical sales manager in Phoenix, was engaged to Skylar for 8 months, together for almost 3 years. Everything seemed perfect. We had this condo we'd purchased together 18 months back, wedding scheduled for late May, our entire lives sketched out. She's a freelance photographer, sharp sense of humor. And until about 10 days ago, I genuinely believed I'd won the relationship lottery. We connected at this charity fundraiser in Scottsdale. She was there shooting photos for the event organizers. I was there because my firm was a major sponsor. She had this magnetic presence that pulled everyone toward her. Self-assured, imaginative, never at a loss for interesting observations. We got talking about her current assignment, some portrait series for a boutique hotel, and I discovered myself truly fascinated by her artistic approach. Our initial dates were phenomenal. She'd reveal these photography projects she was developing, describe the emotional weight of lighting choices and composition. I'd never considered how much intentionality goes into capturing something that appears spontaneous. Meanwhile, I was sharing stories about my pharmaceutical sales career, the complexity of cultivating client relationships, figuring out what they genuinely require versus what they assume they need. We just meshed. She found my awful puns amusing. I valued her creative lens on the world. She'd pull me to art exhibitions, and I'd bring her to hockey games. It felt harmonious, like we each contributed something distinctive. The condo we purchased was this ideal little spot in central Phoenix. 2 bedrooms, small patio, close enough to walk to excellent cafes. We invested weeks selecting furniture together, debating wall colors in the most enjoyable way. She wanted this dramatic feature wall in the bedroom. I was concerned it might overwhelm the space. We found middle ground on something that turned out looking fantastic. I recall the afternoon we received the keys, sitting cross-legged on our bare living room floor, drinking Prosecco from plastic cups because we hadn't located the champagne flutes yet. "This belongs to us," she said. And the expression on her face when she spoke those words convinced me I wanted to build my future with her. The proposal took place roughly 15 months after we started living together. I'd been orchestrating it for weeks, attempting to determine the ideal setting. She was constantly mentioning this small desert garden outside the city where she'd go to photograph when she sought inspiration. One Saturday afternoon, I suggested we drive out there. She was perched on this stone ledge, identifying patterns in the rock formations, explaining how the various geological layers created this compelling natural canvas. That's when I understood it was the perfect time, when she was simply existing as herself, enthusiastic about something she cherished. When I dropped to one knee, her initial response was laughter. Not mockingly, but like she was genuinely shocked it was happening. "Are you being serious?" she asked. Then she noticed the ring and her entire demeanor shifted. "Yes," she said before I could complete my question. "Yes, definitely yes." We dedicated the following weeks planning this wedding for May. She was thriving, coordinating with suppliers, designing save the dates, constructing this comprehensive aesthetic concept. I was mainly attempting to avoid interfering and covering whatever expenses arose. Observing her operate was remarkable. She possessed this capacity to envision how all these separate components would merge into something extraordinary. But then this past Tuesday happened. I'm preparing lunch, feeling quite optimistic about existence when Skylar settles at our kitchen counter with this grave look I'd never witnessed before. "I need to discuss something with you," she says. "I've been contemplating us, about marriage, and I believe we need to take a pause." I assumed she was experiencing anxiety about the wedding logistics stress. That stuff's exhausting, particularly when you're managing 40 different suppliers and relatives. "All right, what sort of pause are we discussing?" "Well, Troy contacted me." Troy, her ex from university, the fitness instructor who she consistently claimed was too self-centered, but somehow continued engaging with all her social media content for the previous 3 years. He's been considering me, and truthfully, I've been considering him as well. I think before we marry, I need to examine these emotions, understand, to be certain. I'm sitting there with my tea, attempting to comprehend what I'm hearing. My mind kept searching for some alternative interpretation. some angle where this discussion wasn't heading where it appeared to be heading. You want to pause our engagement to be with your ex-boyfriend. It's not simply about physical intimacy, Derek. It's about being absolutely certain before we make this commitment. Wouldn't you prefer I resolve this currently than question it afterward? Then have me perpetually wondering what if throughout our marriage? The reality is, I could perceive she'd already determined this wasn't a conversation. It was her informing me of her plan and anticipating I'd accept it. She'd likely been contemplating this for days, perhaps weeks. How extended of a pause are we discussing? Perhaps a month, 6 weeks maximum, just to discover if there's still something genuine or if it's merely nostalgia. I owe it to both of us to be absolutely confident. And what am I expected to do during this examination period? Wait for me. Reflect about us as well. Perhaps take some opportunity to genuinely consider what commitment means to you. It'll be beneficial for both of us to have some distance before we pledge to forever. Wait for her, like I'm some fallback choice she can revisit after evaluating the alternatives. Like our 3 years together, our condo, our engagement, our wedding arrangements. Like none of that signified enough to make her confident. That's when something shifted for me. I'd been in a relationship previously where I was the security blanket, the dependable choice someone maintained while they determined what they genuinely desired. I promised myself I'd never accept that again. The instant someone requests you to wait while they determine if they want you, they've already provided the answer. No, I said no what? No pauses. We're either devoted to getting married or we're not. If you want to see other people, then we're finished. Her complexion went pale. Derek, that's not reasonable. I'm attempting to be transparent with you about my emotions instead of simply questioning indefinitely or worse, betraying you. And I'm being transparent about mine. I refuse to be anyone's contingency plan. She began weeping, claiming I was being irrational, that she cared for me, but required certainty. That Troy had contacted her, and it surfaced all these previous emotions she believed were settled. That it was preferable to address this currently than allow it to contaminate our marriage eventually. But here's what I discovered from experience. When someone communicates they need to verify if the alternative is superior, they've already disengaged from your relationship. The instant she entertained Troy's message instead of rejecting it immediately, she'd made her decision. I removed my ring and placed it on the counter. The engagement is concluded. You can't be serious. Absolutely serious. Contact Troy. Inform him he succeeded in whatever scheme he was executing. She continued weeping. Continued attempting to justify that this wasn't her intention. That she simply required absolute certainty. But I was finished listening to rationalizations for why our 3 years together wasn't sufficient to make her confident about me. I dedicated the remainder of that afternoon contacting suppliers. The photographer, the florist, the caterer, the venue manager. Most of them were sympathetic. Some imposed cancellation penalties. But I was indifferent. My cousin Marcus arrived that evening to assist me begin the process of separating a merged life. You confident about this? He questioned while we were packing some of my belongings. She requested me to wait while she pursues another guy. What precisely am I supposed to be uncertain about? That essentially resolved it for him, too. Marcus had never been Skylar's greatest supporter anyway. Not because he found her unlikable, but because he mentioned she consistently appeared like she was seeking something superior, even when circumstances were positive. By Thursday evening, our condo was listed for sale, and I'd contacted my firm about relocating to another territory. The Denver position had been available for weeks, and abruptly that appeared like precisely the new beginning I required. Update 1. So, after I originally posted, circumstances progressed rapidly. I received a cash proposal on the condo within 36 hours from some developers who were renovating properties in our complex, approximately $12,000 below market price, but I was indifferent. I desired out swiftly and completely. Skylar was residing at her friend Harper's apartment during all this, still believing I was simply being reactive and would relax once I processed what she was requesting. Harper had been messaging me attempting to play intermediary. She genuinely cares about you. She kept communicating. She's just frightened of making the incorrect decision. Can't you two resolve this? But that's precisely the issue. If you're frightened of selecting me, then don't select me. I'm not interested in being someone's hesitant choice. The purchasers wanted to finalize by Thursday. I agreed instantly. Marcus took 4 days off employment to assist me pack everything I wanted to retain. We donated the majority of the furniture. Excessive complication to transport it across states. And honestly, I didn't desire reminders of that existence anyway. Monday evening, I'm transferring boxes into a storage facility when I receive this message from Skylar. Can we please discuss? I've been reflecting about everything and I want to resolve this. There's nothing to resolve, I responded. You made your decision. I made mine. I haven't done anything with Troy yet. We've just been messaging. That actually intensified it somehow. She was prepared to destroy our engagement for someone she'd only been communicating with digitally. The relationship was so insignificant to her that she'd jeopardize it for what might not even be authentic. Tuesday evening, I'm staying in a motel because all my possessions are packed. When Marcus appears with beer and Chinese food, you managing okay with all this? He inquires. Honestly, superior than I anticipated. I keep expecting to feel devastated, but primarily, I simply feel liberated. Liberated how? Like I've been restraining my breath for weeks without recognizing it. Constantly questioning if I was accomplishing enough to maintain her interest, if I was intriguing enough, secure enough, whatever enough. Now I don't have to question anymore. He acknowledged like that made complete logic to him. You know what Dad consistently said? When someone reveals who they are, trust them. Wednesday morning, I signed the documents and officially became voluntarily homeless. My firm had authorized the relocation. I had a furnished apartment arranged in Denver, and honestly, I felt unburdened than I had in weeks. Here's where it becomes intriguing. Skylar and Troy had apparently arranged to visit the condo Wednesday afternoon. She wanted to display our life together or some theatrical gesture like that. Instead, they discovered the sold sign outside and a moving company removing the last of the donated furniture. My phone began erupting around 7 o'clock that evening. Frantic voicemails, messages claiming she'd made a catastrophic mistake, imploring me to contact her. But I was already 4 hours into the drive to Denver, listening to audiobooks, and honestly feeling enthusiastic about beginning fresh. I thought you were simply attempting to intimidate me, one voicemail stated. I didn't believe you'd actually depart. We can repair this. I select you, Derek. I select us. But that's the reality. I didn't want to be selected by someone who had to deliberate about it. I wanted to be with someone who was confident about me the way I'd been confident about her. Marcus had been managing calls from Skylar's friends and relatives. Her mother contacted him distressed, asking what transpired. When he explained the circumstances, she went silent for an extended period. She requested him to wait while what her mother finally questioned. Examined her emotions for her ex-boyfriend. Oh, sweetheart, that young man was correct to depart. Even Skylar's own mother comprehended why I'd departed. That communicated everything I required to understand about how justified my response had been. By Friday, I was established in my new apartment in Denver with a view of the mountains and intentions to commence my new territory Monday morning. Marcus transmitted me updates throughout the week. Skylar appearing at his residence, insisting to know where I'd relocated, weeping about how she'd never intended for this to transpire. But it did transpire. She'd made a sequence of decisions that led directly to this result. And now she was astonished by the consequences. The optimal part, I discovered through mutual acquaintances that Troy had begun withdrawing the instant he recognized she was actually available. Turns out he was more interested in the pursuit than the acquisition. Classic behavior from a guy who derives satisfaction from disrupting other people's relationships. 3 weeks in Denver, and I was already establishing a routine. Located a solid gym. Discovered some excellent restaurants. Began exploring the city. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't anxious about anything. I was simply existing. Update 2. Been an intense few months. Apologies for the postponed update. Employment's been phenomenal. The Denver territory is everything I anticipated, and I'm on track for my strongest sales year ever. The city suits me significantly better than Phoenix. More vitality, more prospects, just feels like a place where things happen. But this past Saturday, I'm returning from a morning mountain hike when I see someone sitting on the steps outside my building. It took me a second to realize it was Skylar. She'd driven 10 hours from Phoenix to find me. I have no idea how she got my address. Probably through mutual connections at work, or maybe she hired someone to track me down. Either way, the dedication to showing up unannounced was both impressive and concerning. We need to talk, she says, standing as I approach. She looked terrible, like she hadn't been sleeping well for months. Dark circles under her eyes, hair that needed attention, just generally worn down. No, we don't. Derek, please. I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. I let her into my apartment because I didn't want this conversation where my neighbors could hear it. But I made it clear this wasn't about reconciliation. She looked around my place. It's smaller than our old condo, but has better light, more personality. This is nice, she said, like she was surprised I could set up a decent space without her. What do you want, Skylar? I want to fix this. I want us back. She launched into this whole explanation about how she'd been scared, how Troy had manipulated her by saying she was settling for me, that she'd always wonder if she was missing out if she didn't explore her feelings. Classic manipulation tactics that worked because she wanted them to work. It lasted 10 days, Derek. 10 days, and he was completely done with me. You were right about everything. I know I was right. That's why I left. She tried to explain that she'd realized what she'd lost, that every day since I left had been horrible, that she couldn't eat or sleep or focus on work. Her photography business had suffered because she couldn't concentrate on client projects. I've been seeing a therapist, she said, working on my fear of commitment, my tendency to self-sabotage when things get real. Good for you. That's important work. I want to do it with you. I want us to go to counseling together and rebuild what we had. The thing is, sitting there listening to her, I realized I didn't want what we'd had. What we'd had was me constantly working to keep her interested while she kept one foot out the door. That's not love. That's just fear of being alone. I love you, she kept saying. I've always loved you. I just got confused. You love the security I represent. There's a difference. She offered everything. Moving to Denver, signing a prenup, whatever I wanted. She'd give up her business in Phoenix, start over here, prove that she was serious about us. But the damage was done. She'd shown me that when things got real, when commitment actually meant something, her first instinct was to run towards someone else. That's not something therapy fixes. That's someone's character. I'm not the same person who left Phoenix, I told her. And you're not the person I thought I was marrying. We both learned something important about who we really are. The conversation lasted about 90 minutes. She cried. She pleaded. She promised things would be different, but I felt nothing except sadness for her. Not anger, not longing, just this deep sadness that she'd thrown away something real for something that was never going to work out. When she finally left, I watched her drive away from my balcony. Part of me expected to feel something. Regret, second thoughts, anything. Instead, I just felt grateful that I'd trusted my instincts and gotten out when I did. I found out later through Marcus that she'd been telling people in Phoenix that I'd abandoned her, that I'd left without even trying to work things out. But her own family wasn't buying that narrative. Her dad had apparently told her she'd thrown away the best thing that ever happened to her for a fantasy. Her mom had been calling Marcus periodically, apologizing for her daughter's behavior and asking if there was any way to fix things. Derek was perfect for her. She kept saying she'll never find another man like him. But that's not my problem anymore. Final update. It's been a full year since I left Phoenix, and I figured I'd close the loop on this story since some people have been asking for updates in my DMs. Life in Denver has been incredible. The sales territory here is more competitive, but also more lucrative. I'm making about 35% more than I was in Phoenix, and the cost of living is roughly the same. The city just fits my personality better. More outdoor activities, better food scene, people who are ambitious without being cutthroat about it. I met someone about 7 months ago. Her name's Elena. She's an operations director for a healthcare startup downtown. We met at this industry conference, similar to how I met Skylar, actually, but the energy was completely different. Where Skylar always seemed like she was performing, Elena is just authentically herself in every situation. She makes decisions and sticks with them. She doesn't need to explore her options because she's confident in her choices. When I told her about the Skylar situation, her response was simple. Thank God she did you that favor. The difference is night and day. Being with someone who actually wants to be with you without hesitation or conditions changes everything about how you experience relationships. I'm not constantly wondering if I'm doing enough to keep her interested because she chose me deliberately and continues choosing me every day. Skylar reached out one more time on what would have been our wedding date. Just a text saying she still thought about me every day and hoped I was happy. I blocked her number after that. Some conversations don't need to happen. Through Marcus and a few mutual connections, I've heard pieces of what her life looks like now. The pattern I predicted basically played out exactly. She's had several relationships since Troy, but none of them last more than a few months. Word gets around in Phoenix's social circles, and when guys hear she left her fiancé for her ex, they see red flags. Her photography business struggled for a while after I left. Losing focus on client work during the whole drama cost her a few big accounts. She ended up having to take a part-time job at a studio to make ends meet while rebuilding her freelance portfolio. Her family relationships are still strained. Her parents were planning to contribute significantly to our wedding and were pretty upset about losing that money. More importantly, they'd grown attached to me over the 3 years we were together, and having to explain to their friends why their daughter called off her engagement was embarrassing for them. Her dad had apparently been looking forward to having a son-in-law who was stable and successful. She had the perfect setup, he told Marcus during one of their occasional conversations. Condo, good man, future planned out, and she threw it away for what? Some guy from her past who didn't even want her when it came down to it. The story followed her around Phoenix's relatively small professional community. She lost a few clients when word spread about what happened. People in relationship-based businesses don't love working with someone whose personal life involves that level of poor judgment. But the most telling part is her dating life. She's been trying to find something serious for over a year now, but she's developed this reputation as someone who doesn't know what she wants. The guys she dates hear about the engagement story and decide they don't want to invest in someone who might suddenly decide to explore her feelings with an ex. Multiple friends have told Marcus that guys in their circle refer to her as that girl who left her fiancé for her ex. That's not a reputation you recover from easily in a place like Phoenix where everyone knows everyone. Meanwhile, I got promoted 7 months ago to Regional Sales Director covering Colorado and New Mexico. Elena and I are talking about moving in together next month. Her lease is up and my apartment lease runs through the summer, so the timing works out perfectly. What I learned from the whole experience is that when someone asks you to wait while they figure out if they want you, they've already given you your answer. The right person doesn't need to explore alternatives to be sure about you. I think about my dad sometimes, how he always told me that actions reveal priorities better than words ever could. Skylar's actions told me that when faced with a choice between our future and immediate gratification, she picked gratification without much consideration for the consequences. That's not someone you build a life with. That's someone who will always be looking for the next exciting thing, the next possibility that might be better than what you have.